Does money equal hope? International players are in Paris mobilising financial support for the Palestinians. But is pouring cash enough to stop the worsening crisis in the West Bank and Gaza Strip and to raise hopes of peace? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Kamal Santamaria. They met in one of the world's most affluent cities to pledge money and support for those in some of the least. 90 delegates met in Paris on Monday for a conference designed to bring aid to the Palestinians to shore up the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Among those taking part, the European Union, the United States, Russia, Israel, the United Nations, and the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. The money's certainly flowing in. The Palestinians requested more than $5.5 billion over the next 3 years. Donors have already pledged over $1 billion of those dollars. But notably absent from the talks, the Islamic resistance movement Hamas. Even though it controls the Gaza Strip and therefore about a third of the occupied territories, it wasn't invited. That's not to say, though, that Gaza isn't on the mind of the attendees. Quite the opposite, in fact. Both the conference hosts, France and the Palestinians, pointed out aid must be widely distributed.
The Conference of Paris must provide immediate support for the whole of the territory of the Palestinians. Our financial support will also be used for Gaza.
Our reform and development plan includes the entire Palestinian territory, West Bank, Gaza Strip, East Jerusalem. Our government performs its role fully and discharges its obligations towards its citizens, namely in Gaza Strip, despite the subversive act there.
And with millions of dollars being pledged, many participants hope the aid can at least jumpstart the Palestinian economy and the peace process. Joining us to discuss the Paris conference are our guests. In Ramallah, Samir Holeile, former Cabinet Secretary General and Chief of Staff in the Palestinian Authority, now an economist. In Cairo, Abdullah Schleifer, Middle East expert and a professor at the American University in Cairo. And in London for us, Abdul Bari Atwan, the editor of the Al-Quds Al-Arabi newspaper. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Inside Story. Let's go to Ramallah first. Samir Holeile, we've heard those words of the two presidents, Sarkozy and Abbas. Can we believe them, given the animosity between Fatah and Hamas?
Yes, at the end of the day, what will materialize is will Salam Fayyad and his government deliver to Gaza and to Gazans? Will it be able to deliver salaries in Gaza and the West Bank? Will it be able to build schools and clinics in Gaza and have a social welfare program in both areas? That's what will matter at the end, not just the words. And I think it's a big challenge for Salam Fayyad and for President Abu Mazen to do that if there is no political will behind these words. You need political will that will help the Palestinians to make sure that Israel will not continue its siege on Gaza and will not just punish the 1.5 million Palestinians in Gaza. We need their assistance in that regard. We need an American and an international support in that.
Right, so you mentioned Gaza a lot there, and we will be looking at that more in the second half of the show. I want to focus a bit on the money at the moment. Abdul Bari Atwan in London. There is obviously huge generosity from the international community. We can see that even after years of little or no progress in the territories. How long do you think the Palestinians can rely on that level of support?
To be honest, I think it's not up to the Palestinian. It is up to the Israelis. The Palestinian economy is completely suffocated by the Israeli measures. There are obstacles for the movement of businessmen. The private sector is completely out of work. There are about 500 checkpoints on the West Bank alone. Gaza is completely besieged by the Israeli sanctions. So it is. I haven't had any reference to these Israeli measures, which actually can make the Palestinian economy further in trouble. So I think it's not up to the Palestinian. This is. I wish the donors' country exerted pressure on the Israeli themselves, saying to them, look, if you want the Palestinians to rely on themselves, we have to help them. We have to help their economy. But I cannot see that at all. And I believe the Israeli will be the major beneficiary from this kind of money, simply because, the Palestinian economy is connected to the Israeli. This is one thing. Second thing, the occupied territories is the responsibility of the Israeli themselves. They are the occupier according to according to the Geneva Convention. So they have to create jobs for the Palestinians. They have to provide for the Palestinians because they are under their occupation. Why the international community should pay to the Palestinian on their behalf, on the behalf of the Israelis? I think, you know, we have to say to the Israeli, either you behave as occupying power and provide for those people, or you quit and leave them alone, and they will manage themselves with the help of the international community. But they cannot actually be occupier and beneficiary from the money of the international community.
Abdullah Schleifer in Cairo, what do you reckon? Is the economy of the Palestinian territories the responsibility of the Israelis or of these donors who are giving the money?
Well, it's hard to put it in such simple terms, but let me say this. The overall analysis that Abdul Bari made is not just his alone or those of Palestinians. The World Bank basically, perhaps the rhetoric isn't as strong, but basically the World Bank says the same thing. They say that even the biggest financial package that could be put together, such as happening now in Paris, isn't going to work unless there are fundamental changes that will make that economy live again. And those changes have to do, to a large part, with the Israelis. All the things that Abdul Bari mentioned. Of course, it also has to do with the Palestinians, because I think that, like it or not, this may be a financial jumpstart, but what's needed is a political jumpstart. So it's all well and good for people who are sitting in the West Bank in leadership positions to talk about the fact that they're going to deal with Gaza. But how are they going to deal with Gaza? They're going to have to come to terms somehow with their fellow Palestinians from a rival party who are sitting in authority in Gaza. And somehow that has to be reconciled if serious steps are going to be taken, including creating the sort of quiet that is necessary for the America and Western powers to persuade the Israelis, and that they have got to put an end to all the obstructions that are destroying the Palestinian economy. The World Bank says that if all you do is pump a lot of money in, but you don't change these obstructions, the Palestinian economy will continue to decline. And they say if you lift those obstructions, the Palestinian economy could double or triple within just a few years.
And is it not also in Israel's interests to see money going into the Palestinian territories, if not for the independence of the Palestinians, but also for the taxes that it will create?
Well, I think above all, it's to their interest to see a sort of a growing economy which gives people hope rather than despair, which gives people a sense that there's a future to live for rather than a present to die for. And that's more important than taxes. That has to do with the security and well-being of individual Israelis who make up the state of Israel, to put an end to the sort of hostilities which have not just damaged the Palestinians terribly, but have also caused a lot of some damage in Israel. So I think they certainly have a vested interest. Look, the Prime Minister, Omar, made an amazing remark just a few days ago, where he said the very safety of Israel depends on the two-state solution. Now, if he means that, then he should move with the greatest speed possible to achieve that two-state solution. And to achieve it, number one, he should not be an obstacle to some sort of reordering of the political environment, so that Gaza and West Bank, so they can be a functioning Palestinian entity. And that entity, by the way, prior to the disruption that happened in Gaza and the breakdown in relations between Fatah and Hamas, that entity, in the form of a coalition government, was given the authority by Hamas to negotiate fully with Israel. People forget that. I remember, I'm no fan of Hamas, but I remember very clearly Hamas statesmen saying, the government is not Hamas. The government is a coalition government, and Hamas gives that coalition government full rights to negotiate with Israel towards peace.
Okay,
on that basis,
I'm sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you. I just want to bring Samir Halele back into the debate over in Ramallah, because I'd like to focus a bit more actually on the money itself. We're talking about these billions that are being pledged in Paris from all these donor countries. What's happened to donor money in the past? What's the record like? Has it been properly used in the past?
Properly used is the word. However, the problem is how Israel reacted to this and how Israel actually destroyed hundreds of development projects, thousands of kilometers of infrastructure in Gaza and other places, so it evaporated. However, such questions, to be frank, shall not be asked now. The Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza are anxious first to be paid their salaries, in particular Gaza, where 50% of the workforce are in the public sector, and this is the only means for them to survive the siege on Gaza. And second, they need some basic infrastructure support. So some kind of recovery would be felt, at least some hope, as you have said, could be felt in Gaza and in the West Bank, till the political process will materialize into some action or some results.
Right, so
we have seen that what happened in Annapolis.
Are you confident
I'm
then
not confident about the process.
That the money,
I'm not confident
will
about the
actually
process.
get back?
I'm saying, yes, I'm confident that the money will be spent on the Palestinians. I trust this government. However, I don't trust the political process. And of course, I don't trust Israel and how they will react to these projects and to this money.
So, a lot of money coming in, but where will it go? I guess that is the question at this point. Do you think also, Samir Halali, that the donors will all be good to their word and that the money will actually make it there in the first place?
Look, at least the donors in the last 3 weeks, after they have seen the development plan and the initial response, that they were happy for it and they were eager to pledge for it and to commit themselves with this government and with Abu Mazen. So I think in a political sense, I believe that the first year will see some serious action vis-a-vis bringing this money into the territory. However, the question is, will it last for 3 years? Will it last if the political process is disrupted? Will it last if Israel and the United States have a different position vis-a-vis the political process? It's all political, we understand.
All right, let's take a break here on Inside Story. When we come back, we will focus in on Gaza. Can the money make its way effectively into that isolated strip? And is money really the solution for the besieged people? Back in a moment.